So finally, we are here. The NFL has released the schedule for the Baltimore Ravens, and there is so much to unpack before we even jump into the games. First, we're going to talk about some of the things that stood out to me when it comes to the Ravens schedule for the 2025 season and what things are just going to look like. I know that we all think that the Ravens are going to go 17-0. They could go 17-0, but that may not be it because there are some determining factors that play into these things when it comes to playing these games. And we all know that the Ravens, for one game or two, always plays down to competition and loses a game that they shouldn't. Will that be the case today? We shall see. So when it comes to this schedule, one of the first things that stood out to me was the fact that the Ravens only have 4 primetime games. The Atlanta Falcons have 4 primetime games as well, and they are not as nearly successful as the Baltimore Ravens have been. They don't have any primetime marquee players like the Ravens have. They do have Drake London, they do have Kyle Pitts, and they do have Bijan Robinson, but they don't have a Lamar Jackson. They don't have a winning tradition or an organization like ours, but it's the NFL and we can't ask but for so many things. So just know when we're talking about the schedule, the Ravens are playing a first place schedule because they were the #1 team in the AFC North for a second year in a row. And so of course, how does the NFL reward the Ravens for winning the division consecutively for a second year in a row? The Ravens begin the season in prime time with the team that eliminated them in the playoffs the previous season. Hopefully we will not get a repeat of the last season when we just did not come out on top, because the Ravens cannot afford to start this season 0-2 like they did last season, because it is a tough gauntlet of games. The Ravens' first 6 games are brutal, and I mean brutal. Out of those 6 games, 5 of those teams were playoff teams. Now, granted, those teams may not perform exactly the way that they did last season, but they did make the playoffs, so the potential is there. And having 5 of those teams in the first 6 games is a very daunting task. So the Ravens have to start strong. They have to start fast, get all the kinks out the way, do whatever they need to do during the preseason to make things right, because game 1, we go against those hated Buffalo Bills up in Buffalo. I myself was thinking about going to this game, but I'm like, I don't want to be surrounded by a bunch of racists, so I'm probably going to watch at home. And also, when it comes to the schedule, one of the good things is that out of the first 9 games, the Ravens are only going to be on the road for 3 of those weeks, with one of those weeks being a bye. And that bye comes in week 7, which is the earliest that the Ravens have had a bye since 2020, which was also in week 7. So after that, the Ravens are going to have to play 11 consecutive games. It's a tough task for this team. We know health plays a big role when going into the playoffs. Having to play 11 straight weeks, hopefully they will wrap up the division, they'll wrap up the conference by week 17, week 18, and they can rest going into the playoffs, because having to fight for your life and play 11 straight weeks, then enter the playoffs is a very tough task for any team. And then when you lump all of those games in together, you have to hope that everybody stays healthy. So this is one thing that I really didn't like about this schedule. Even though they only have the 3 road games, bye is a tad bit early to my liking. We normally have a bye later in the year, maybe week 11, week 13. That way we'll only have a few slate of games afterwards going into the playoffs. But this year, I guess we have to roll with the punches and go with what the league has given us. Another thing that I like is the Baltimore Ravens have 2 3-game homestands. So there are 2 times where during a month's period, the Ravens will not leave the confines of Baltimore, Maryland. They will rest in their beds, they will stay at home, they do not have to travel after the games. So those 2 things kind of circumvent having that early bye, maybe later on, but they do have a couple of stretches where they have a bunch of road games where they won't see Baltimore for several weeks. So this schedule for Baltimore has a baseball-like feel to it, where they have a homestand, then they have a road trip, and then they come back home. So it's a little bit different than previous years. And one of the biggest things, one of the things that I love the most, is the Baltimore Ravens finally have another home Monday night game. Since John Harbaugh became the head coach in 2008, the Baltimore Ravens have had 23 Monday night football games, with only 5 coming at home. So they played 18 road games during the John Harbaugh tenure. This is ridiculous. Hopefully this starts a trend where the Ravens can play at home, because they are one of the better teams in the NFL. So why do they always have to travel for Monday night games? Why can't we be at home? Why do we always have to have slated games to go elsewhere when the lights are the brightest? Because Lamar Jackson honestly shows the out Monday night is his time. So why not just let him do his thing on the home turf and stop upsetting those other fans in these other stadiums? And also, the Ravens have a home Thanksgiving game. Yes, they are the final game during Thanksgiving. They switched things out. It was earlier rumored that it was going to be the Rams and the Bucks, but now it is going to be the Ravens playing at home, where the Ravens in their 2 previous times playing on Thanksgiving are 2-0. So like I said, when you put Lamar, you put the Ravens in prime time, they tend to win games. So I think it would be a good idea to schedule them a little more often in these prime time matchups. So all of these things combined, when it comes to the makeup, when it comes to everything that the Baltimore Ravens have for this 2025 schedule, it all turns out that the Ravens have the 11th toughest schedule in the league. We just have to wait and see week by week what the Ravens are going to do. But as for me right now, I'm going to give you a way too early prediction as to how I feel that this team is going to end up game by game. Some of you may agree, some of you may disagree, but me, I am a realist. I understand we want the team to go 17-0. We want the team to win every game that they play, but that's not always possible. We lost games last year versus the Las Vegas Raiders and the Cleveland Browns. Can something like that happen again? Of course it can. But I'm going to be realistic with the way that things stand right now, with the way that this roster is constructed. These are how I see these games going. Now, you know, injuries, turnovers, additions later on in the season could change a lot of things. But right now, we're going to jump into how I feel the Ravens are going to do game by game. So let's get it. Week 1, the Baltimore Ravens travel up to Orchard Park to take on the hated Buffalo Bills. Now, we all know the division round last year, Baltimore Ravens got eliminated by the Bills. You know, last season we 1-1. We won the regular season, they won in the postseason. We owe them something. We need to get our lick back. We need to show them that, listen, this was an anomaly. This is the new iteration of the Baltimore Ravens, and we're not playing this season. We need to come out the gate fast and strong. Yes, the Buffalo Bills have had some key additions to build up their roster. Yes, they got better. Yes, they have MVP Josh Allen, but we have supposed and rightfully so MVP Lamar Jackson, and we have Derrick Henry off of a newly minted contract. Plus, with some additions to this defense and Zach Orr being in his 2nd year, maybe things will go a little bit differently, but we cannot start the season again 0-1. And to me, I think that the Ravens actually do what they were supposed to do, because we know in the regular season, the Baltimore Ravens are a truly different team. So to me, they beat the Buffalo Bills. I think they beat them handily and start the season off 1-0. Then in week 2, the Baltimore Ravens make their home opener versus the Cleveland Browns. Being that it is so early in the season, is it a possibility? Is it likely that Shedeur Sanders will be the starting quarterback for the Browns? Probably not. You know, Baltimore's second favorite son, Joe Flacco, may be making his return to Baltimore as the starter for the Cleveland Browns. I know that we sometimes trip up and every year we lose a game to the Browns, but this is not the year for it. They have lost a lot of key pieces to that team. They moved on from my favorite running back, Nick Chubb. They no longer have Amari Cooper, and they've lost some pieces off of the defense. JOK, he's out for the season already. I just don't think that they have enough in the Ravens win this game to move to 2-0. And if you thought things were already bad enough, now we get the Monday night game. Now we get the game at home versus the Detroit Lions. This was supposed to be the Super Bowl matchup of last season. Everybody thought that Detroit was the best team in the NFC. Everybody thought the Ravens were the best team in the AFC. It just didn't happen. So now we get an opportunity to see what the Super Bowl matchup possibly could have, maybe should have looked like in this Monday night matchup at home. Now, the Detroit Lions, they have Amon-Ra St. Brown, they have Jahmyr Gibbs, they have wide receiver Jameson Williams, and this will actually be his first game coming off of his 2-game suspension. So this will be his first game action of the season. Hopefully he doesn't use that as an opportunity to go off on the Ravens. So this is where, to me, the start of this new look secondary is really going to come into play, because offensively they are a problem. Defensively, they fell off with the injury to Aiden Hutchinson. He should be back and fully healthy. We don't know what that team is going to look like defensively, but offensively, we know they are going to be able to put up points. Hopefully, they will not be able to do this against us, but being that it is a Monday night football game and Lamar Jackson is damn near unbeatable on Monday night, especially in prime time, this win for me goes to the Ravens, and they begin the season 3-0. Then in week 4, we get the other team that we have a little bit of a disdain for when it comes to the Kansas City Chiefs. The Baltimore Ravens travel to Arrowhead to play a 4:25 game against the team that we have only beaten once in the Lamar Jackson era. 2 seasons ago, they ousted the Ravens from the AFC Championship game, and we just cannot beat them. They beat us the first game last season. They just have our number for some reason. And for me, you cannot be the man until you beat the man. I have the utmost confidence in the Baltimore Ravens, but for some reason, when we go up against Patrick Mahomes, we just do not play our best football. And sometimes, even when we do, he just finds a way to pull a game out his ass. So for me, as this game being in Arrowhead, I do see the Ravens losing this game and falling 3-1, losing their first game of the season. Then in week 5, the Baltimore Ravens are right back at home, taking on the Houston Texans. Now, the Ravens have played the Houston Texans every year of CJ Stroud's career. This is his 3rd year in the league. This will be the 4th time that the Baltimore Ravens are playing him. We defeated him in his rookie season. We beat him that same season in the playoffs, and we dismantled him last year on Christmas Day. I don't think anything really changes for me as far as this is concerned. They traded away their best offensive lineman. They're trying to revamp some things because CJ Stroud was under so much pressure last year. I don't think anything's going to change. I just think that the Ravens have their numbers and they own the Texans. But one thing that the Texans can do is they can play some defense with head coach D'Amico Ryans and Danielle Hunter and them boys. Like, they are going to put a lot of pressure on this Baltimore Ravens offensive line. So the Baltimore Ravens offensive line, from the word go, has to be ready to play this season because they play a bunch of defensive lines that are going to try to come after Lamar Jackson. And there is a lot of talent on this Texans defense. It's just offensively, I think that's where they're going to struggle. And I think that the Ravens are going to beat them and go to 4-1. Then in week 6, the Ravens take on the Los Angeles Rams. To me, this may be an even tougher test than the Kansas City Chiefs, and a lot of people are overlooking this game. This is a game that I had pinpointed even though I didn't know what week it was going to be in, because even last year, the Rams were the only team in the playoffs that had a legitimate shot at beating the Philadelphia Eagles, and that was a very close game. Offensively, they had Matt Stafford, they had Puka Nacua, they have Kyron Williams, and they added a Devontae Adams to take over for an older Cooper Kupp. So I think that this offense, if they get things together, can be a little more dangerous. But for me, it is the defense that Les Snead has built up there in Los Angeles that may give the Ravens fits. Somehow Les Snead finds talent everywhere. I don't care what round it is, he finds talent defensively, and with Jared Verse and all those guys, that defense gets after you. Ask the Philadelphia Eagles, ask Saquon Barkley, they gave those guys fits. So if the Ravens guards aren't ready for this, this can be a game where defensively they can do some things to the Ravens and make this tough. So for me, I think that this game is going to be one of those games where the Baltimore Ravens slip up and they fall to 4-2. Then in week 7, the Baltimore Ravens have a bye, and in week 8, they take on the Chicago Bears. Even with 2024 number 1 overall pick Caleb Williams and this revamped Chicago Bears offensive line, they went out and got pieces from everywhere because all throughout the season he was just getting banged up. He looked like David Carr with the Houston Texans out there. I don't care what the Bears have brought in offensively, I just don't think that he is prepared and he is ready to take over and lead that team to consistent win. I don't think that he has advanced enough to beat a team like the Baltimore Ravens. Yes, the Bears are an up-and-coming team, but they're not it. So the Ravens win this game and go to 5-2. Then in week 9, the Baltimore Ravens traveled down to the MIA to take on those Miami Dolphins. Listen, what is there left to say? Every time Lamar sees the Miami Dolphins, all you hear is touchdown. Like, Lamar just walks into the stadium for warm-ups. Touchdown Ravens. This team, for some reason, cannot defend Lamar to save their lives. Like, it is a Jackson 5 waiting when Lamar just sees that Dolphins logo. And to think defensively, they are not even as good as they were in previous years. You have Jalen Phillips coming back from another injury. Javon Holland's gone. They're very talented safety. You have Xavier Howard. He's a free agent, probably never going to sign with another team. So they have a lot of turnover, a lot of flux going on with this defense, and even those guys couldn't stop Lamar Jackson. Then offensively, we don't really know what's going on with Tua, and will he even be healthy for this game? So this is a no-brainer. I think that this is a game the Ravens may put up 50, 60 points and move to 6-2. Then in week 10, the Baltimore Ravens traveled to Minnesota to take on the Vikings. The Vikings were one of the best teams in the NFL last season, but that was with Sam Darnold, who has experience at quarterback. Even though he may not have been one of the better quarterbacks in the league, he has had starting experience. Now the Vikings are starting, not rookie, but didn't play last season, J.J. McCarthy, in hopes that he can take over and they can continue what they have going on. To me, the Ravens trying to guard Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, that may be a problem, but I just don't think with a rookie quarterback they can really do too much. Now defensively, Brian Flores, the defensive coordinator, he's had our number a couple times. Like, he's dialed up some blitzes that have given the Ravens fits, but I think that Lamar has progressed as a passer. I think that this team is going to be too much. Even though I've been out to and I love Minnesota Stadium, it's a very, very beautiful stadium. They just don't have enough team-wise. They are not the team that they were last year, and the Ravens win this game to move to 7-2. Then in week 11, the Ravens traveled to Cleveland to take on the Browns, and this may be one of those games where in years past that they normally trip up, lose a game to the Browns. I do think that Shedeur Sanders may be starting at this time. I think the Cleveland Browns will be a lot better team. Offensively, they have always had a strong offensive line. Those young running backs that they drafted, will they be enough? Is this defense going to be enough? And I think that the Ravens, I'm just kidding. Ravens win this game to move to 8-2. Then in week 12, the Ravens return home to take on the North New York Baltimore Ravens. You know the Jets just love acquiring previous Ravens, so they're coming to Baltimore to scout some more talent for next season. And to me, this game could have been an interesting matchup, but the New York Jets just aren't a team that is serious about playing football, about winning football, about going to the playoffs. They have a new general manager. They have a new head coach. I mean, Aaron Glenn, no-nonsense guy. I think he's going to do a lot better than most of the previous coaches have done for the Jets. But, I mean, come on now. The little momentum that this team has had over the last few seasons is gone. They thought that they were a quarterback away from making the playoffs and making some noise, brought in Aaron Rodgers. Nothing happened. Yes, they have Garrett Wilson, they have Breece Hall, they have Quinnen Williams, but they also are rebuilding 2 to 3/5 of that offensive line. Their defensive captain and CJ Mosley, they've moved on from. Like, they have a lot of guys. Their corner DJ Reed is gone. Like, they've lost a lot of key pieces to a team that was pretty good. They just didn't figure some things out, and with all those losses and then coming up against the Ravens, I think it is a little too much to handle, and the Ravens move to 9-2 on the season. Now in week 13, we get to Turkey Day, which is a Thursday night game where the Cincinnati Bengals come to Baltimore to take on the Ravens Thanksgiving night. The last time that the Bengals came to Baltimore on a Thursday night, it was Purple Rising. My daughter Jasmine got me tickets to that game. It was a lovely time. Don't know if I'm going to be at this one. I might. I don't know. But I feel like some of the same things are going to happen during this game. The Bengals, with all of their firepower, what they can do offensively, as good as they are on that side of the ball, they are as bad defensively. They've lost a lot of key pieces. Sam Hubbard had to retire. Trey Hendrickson, the reigning sack king and their best defender, is contemplating sitting out the season because the Bengals and their cheap owner Mike Brown does not want to pay him. Their first round pick Shamar Stewart hasn't even signed his contract because he's like, the money ain't right. The language in the contract is they're trying to lowball me and pay me later on when they should give me my money now. Like, I'm working for you now, you pay me now. And the Bengals aren't willing to do that. So as much as they can score points, as good as they are offensively, they are as bad defensively. And I think being at home, the Baltimore Ravens, especially in prime time on TV on Thanksgiving, the Ravens are going to win this game to move to 10-2. Now we are at the back end of the schedule and we are in week 14 and we stay at home to take on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, even if the Pittsburgh Steelers had everything going for them, they messed up last year because the Baltimore Ravens, Lamar Jackson, he's finally figured this team out. No longer can people say that, the Steelers are the only team that has Lamar Jackson's number. He can't do Lamar type things versus this team. Oh, word? But we don't even really have to worry about that because now this once proud, once storied franchise is now the laughingstock of the NFL. They traded away talented wide receiver George Pickens and they don't even have a quarterback right now. What are they doing about the quarterback position? Yes, they got Will Howard out of Ohio State. They have Mason Rudolph who's come back to town, but they don't put any fear in anybody's hearts. So I don't think that this game is even going to be competitive. The Baltimore Ravens move on to 11-2, and you know what? We'll just see them at the end of the season. Then in week 15, for the second time in 3 weeks, the Baltimore Ravens take on the Cincinnati Bengals in Cincinnati. Like I said earlier, defensively, they just don't have it. Hopefully Joe Burrow can make it a full season. Doesn't normally do that. One year he plays all year, the next year he takes part of the season off. Is this going to be one of those years where he doesn't play both games against the Ravens? Even if he does, defensively they don't have enough. The Ravens win, go to 12-2. Then week 16, the Ravens go back home to Baltimore to take on the New England Patriots. Yeah, they brought back Mike Vrabel to bring back the Patriots way, but over the last 3 seasons, the Patriots way has been a bunch of dog shit. They are not the storied, proud franchise that they once were. I understand that they're trying to make moves. They had the most amount of money to spend in free agency this offseason. They brought in a couple pieces. They brought in a Stephon Diggs. They brought in a Milton Williams, but to me, I don't think that is enough for a team that was this bad. I'm not sure that Drake May is the answer at quarterback. Have they gotten him enough weapons to work around him? I know that they are building up the offensive and defensive lines to make things a little bit better, but they're going against the Ravens. It's a done deal. Ravens move on to 13-3, and we just move on to week 17. And in week 17, this game is to be determined. Maybe it'll be a primetime game, maybe it won't be. I'm not for certain. They don't know yet. I think it depends upon the standings, the importance and severities of the game, how they relate to playoff positioning. But the Ravens take on the Green Bay Packers at home. I believe that the Baltimore Ravens are going to lose this game just because, like I said, there are just some games that the Ravens lose during the season inexplicably. There's no rhyme or reason for it. For me, I just think that with what Green Bay does offensively, just bringing in talent everywhere, for some reason, they're going to get Jordan Love, each and every receiver on the face of planet Earth. And I think that with the offensive talent that they have, if the Ravens are worn down and tired from playing so many consecutive games, I just think that they may offensively take advantage of this team. We may not be at our best. I just think that the Ravens are going to fall in this game and fall to 13-3. Now we get to the last game of the season. Of course, we're going to end it in Pittsburgh. How else could we end the season other than Pittsburgh? We've done it like 3 times out of the last 6 years. I don't know why. But to me, this game has no importance, no impact on the season. By this time, the Ravens are going to have the conference locked up. They're going to have the #1 seed already in hand. The starters are going to rest. The Steelers may win. Just because Baltimore has nothing left to play for, they're going to rest their starters. They're going to get some young guys in there. Somehow, maybe Pittsburgh is going to win to give Mike Tomlin his next not losing season. And the Ravens will fall to 13-4 just because this game means nothing to them. So that is it for my way too early predictions. I think the Ravens are going to finish the season 13-4, maybe 14-3. But more likely 13-4 because, like I said, they have a game here and there that they slip up upon where they shouldn't lose, and they just lose, and we just sit back scratching our heads like, how did this happen? It just happens. 13-4 is going to be good enough to get the Ravens the #1 seed. They're going to get the first round bye and then have to play 2 games before they reach the Super Bowl, ultimately winning it. Lamar Jackson wins league MVP, Super Bowl MVP, Kyle Hamilton's Defensive Player of the Year, all the awards, all the accolades. The Baltimore Ravens are going to get it, blah, blah, blah. That's the team. 2025 is our year. Not going to keep saying this each and every season, but 2025, this is going to be it for us. So until the next video, I'll check you guys later.